Welcome everyone to this talk. This talk is based on the idea that psychological safety is created to boost innovation. This concept of boosting innovation using a climate in which you can feel free to speak your mind is something that has been running around for a while. And it's something that was pioneered by a Harvard study that looked to what make teams what is the relationship between team performance and making errors. They find out that teams that make more errors actually are more performing, which was counterintuitive. But once we dig to the data, they found that it's not that teams that make more errors are more productive, are more performant actually. It's that the teams that report errors more seems to be more performant. This idea formed a paradigm shift, but it was not that noticed until a study done by Google, in which they went through to their team and tried to find out what are the characteristics of the most innovative teams, and they found that psychological safety is something that is highly was a big factor in making teams more innovative. This is something that was supported by psychology. So we know that people have tendency to always want to belong with their group, to be a part of the pack. As you can see this quote here from Game of Thrones, which is basically that we evolved to value being part of the group more than being right. And if only chance if you have is being wrong with the group or being right against it, most of us are going to be choose to be wrong with the group. This also added to the fact that humans have an uncanny ability to discount the future, which made the benefit of speaking their mind really far in the future, but the consequences might be soon. And that made a lot of people hesitant to speak in their mind and innovating. So when the New York Times published the Google research, this is not only vindicated what psychologists were saying for decades, it also led to the slew of psychological safety initiative that has been started all over the place in a lot of organizations, a lot of companies. This worked. A lot of innovation has been introduced to companies faster and faster based on the fact that people can take on more risk now. And that led to the idea that now the concept of safe to fail seems to be something that is all over the place. The issue with the concept itself, it's good, but it doesn't seem to be widely adopted by employees. There is a lot of initiative all over the place to make sure that people can use this. And it is something that seems to be leading to more of the kind of initiative that company were already doing, the kind that is reactive, the kind that is often prompted by some problem or some difficulty that employees are facing, and then they use this newfound power to solve it, instead of the kind that is proactive, which is basically the kind where employees are always in the hunt of problems that might happen in the future and try to find find solutions and enable new markets for the company. The reason for that is we seems to be the tactic that are used to encourage the safe to fail approach are a bit based on the ideas that are coming from psychological safety. The first one is we seems to be more focused on reporting failure than the failure itself. This come in the form of encouraging people to take on more risk by saying, okay, everybody is failing. We also mentioned some notorious people who failed before succeeding, like Steve Jobs, Oprah Winfrey, and Walt Disney. The fact when we always mention the fact that failure will not diminish them in the eye of others, and they should be taken on risk, even if that might lead to failures. This helps a lot in dealing with past failures. When you are in the middle of the situation, you remember that failing is not an issue, and when you fail, you can overcome that. But next time you are facing with a situation that it might lead to failure, it's an entire mental gymnastic to try to envision the entire process and expect the result to be a failure, and then how to handle it. The second thing, is this, it's okay to fail also create a small paradox inside the lot of people who are geared toward winning. The human brains always want to win the game that is played. Either you can see this in kids who are playing soccer or football, as you say in the UK, or something that was also visible in a lot of people who are in some tough situations. The goal is always to win. This is also aligned with how our ancestors evolved. Winning always meant having more resources, which mean in turn being more value to the group and having bigger chances of survival. The fact that okay, it's okay to fail, but our brain wants to win, as I mentioned, that's created a small paradox. So to find a solution for this lack of risk taking and try to complement the safety fail movement, it's helpful to look to the kind of organizations that were achieving this kind of what is called disruptive innovation, the innovation that were built around creating new innovative products and get them to the market fast. One of this kind of innovation is the startup organization. This is something that has been innovating for the last decade, and this seems to be always having this kind of mindset, or always going and to get the proper solution and to use them to find problem and the proper problem, and develop solutions that create new markets. I was lucky enough to witness this debate of how to make existing company as innovative as startups in both sides of the debate. I worked for a lot of small and big companies. I was a designer, I was an engineer, I was a Scrum Master and Agile coach, and I founded a lot of startups, and I organized a lot of startup events and hackathon, and that led me to being able to see this conversation from multiple points. I did this for in a lot of countries, and I know that this conversation is still here. The only thing is, I'm not the only one who asks these questions. A lot of people all through the years always saw this dichotomy between sustaining innovation and disruptive innovation, and how we can get the kind of innovation that can help us create new markets and win them, or expand to existing markets. Companies in the past often approach this problem from a tactical perspective. Either they embrace new technology, they embrace working in small teams, the concept of MVPs and market validation, prototyping, design thinking, or they try to hire the right people. They try to say, okay, we know that entrepreneurship bring this kind of people, the go-getter attitude, and people who are able to build this stuff, so let's go hire them. But the first solution seems to be just get back into to the day-to-day work. We end up by having this process as just our part of daily work. And the second solution seems to be not that working that much, since we see a lot of big companies, even if they acquire small startups, the founders, the visionaries, often either they start going with the corporate culture and their innovation is diminished, or they leave to go work on something that is more fostering for innovation. The good news is, with the advent of the psychological safety, it seems to be that we have a chance here to have a deeper understanding of what is the kind of culture that lead to innovation. For the first time ever, the conversation seems to be a bit more embracing of failure as a reason for success. And this might give us another chance to try to square this round peg. The first thing I want to mention in this conversation is startups don't deal with failures, they don't deal with risk, they deal with uncertainty. This is something that I noticed a lot while working with a lot of startups. The founders, when they get together to start working on an idea, they don't seem to be focusing more on what's gonna do. They just have a silent agreement that they are going to uncharted territory. This is something that's like driving a car in a dark alley, or in a fog or something. You can't see that far in advance. You can just see as long as your lights go, but you know that if you are going in the right way, you're going to end up there. This expectation of uncertainty creates a mindset where the conversation move away from all what is ephemeral or momentary, like failure, success, risk, to something that is everlasting, which is uncertainty. So you hear founders asking more questions like, what is the big next thing we need to build, how to build it, and how to sell it, and not something that's something like how to succeed in how to succeed in this task or something like this. And no matter where they are in the success to failure spectrum, it's just a part of going beyond uncertainty. So they just go, I'm sorry, they just go with it. The, the idea of moving from handling failure and handling risk to handling uncertainty is not something that is that popular in existing company, because it's something that goes against what a lot of managers believe is proper managing strategy, which is reducing uncertainty or removing uncertainty. What is hard to grasp in this situation is glazing over uncertainty to get to the target is not something that is really, first of all, it's not possible since a lot of uncertainty you get to stay. You're just hiding uncertainty or reducing uncertainty. And the second is people are more innovative when they are in a sandbox. You know, climate, there's a lot of change and there is a lot of, and the rules are really vague, yeah, i.e. uncertainty. Okay, so the second thing I noticed that startup use to be more innovative is that they don't get hung up on what we say more of more now with the concept of psychological safety is they don't get hung up in target and labeling the failure as a something that's adhered to somebody or to or another. Founders don't mention that they failed. They mention that their startups failed, their projects failed, their initiatives failed, but they don't mention that they are a failure. And here, don't get me wrong, this is not like some idea where I said, okay, no failure is bad failure. There is some failure that is just failure. It's just that this is just a reality check. My observation is repeated founders, the one who do fail, and do succeed are the one who end up succeeding. And when they are talking about their past experience, they never mention that they were a failure or something. The project failed, the tasks failed, the work item failed, but the founders themselves seems to be moving forward. I give you a simple example. Let's say we have two employees. Let's call them A and B, and both of them are working a project. Let's call this project X. If E and B has different skills or different set or different level of the same skills, maybe A will succeed and B will not. But if neither E and B check on the project, they will not fail. This is where it seems to be. So this is where I think that I saw startups focusing a lot on. The next thing I saw is the fact that we are living in a world that moves so fast that there isn't room for non-innovation. We saw that uncertainty is always there, and it's like driving a car, but you don't driving a car at night, but you don't have a choice. You might not be want to drive that car in a fog or at night, but the idea is you have to go to the place you are going, and you have to go now. Building the next big thing for a startup or for a company is the only way to be able to be safe. Here I want just to point to something that I have been talking for a while. It's the idea that I'm trying to take something that works for small companies and bring it to big companies. I know that a lot of people will say, oh, but both of them are not the same. Small companies are different. After all, like a small fish is not a big fish, like a sardine is not a whale. A shark might eat the sardine, but I'm very much sure it will not be able to eat a blue whale. But the thing is, the two species plus the shark, which basically the two species are all three of them are facing with the same danger since they are living in the same water. Likewise, this is the case for established companies. I'm sorry, and startups in the innovation spectrum. The mantra is simple: either you innovate fast or you die slow. It's something that it's something that we saw all over the time with lots of companies. Okay, the next item I see is there's this dichotomy is that running the business or innovating. A lot of people who have clients think that they should always be either running the business of or innovating. Well, this might be understandable, because if we talk to people, they say, okay, well, innovation is going to help us in the future, but running the business is going to help us for now. Not only that, but running the business is going to give us the resources so we can innovate. And if we do bad job in running the business now, even if we come out with something that's really great, it will not, clients will not like it. And this added to the prevailing belief that startups don't have to manage running the business. People think that you can't apply the same rule. Well, from my experience, startups always manage the business. I never saw a startup who did development part and then the selling part. They always create product and sell it at the same time. The only difference is startups don't check any kind of market penetration as a competitive advantage. They know that customers are always served with a better product, which means that often they might do major changes in a product that is in production, or scrap completely that product and present a new one that might solve the problem better. They know that they can never build the company on the same product for always. Like if they're selling a product today, tomorrow they might not be able to sell it. And they know that if they don't do it, somebody else will. So it's better with them. So keeping the business is as I mentioned, but the leaders has to make sure that it doesn't turn to what is called the whirlwind, which is basically some form of tornadoes, some form of huge. I don't know if there is whirlwind in the UK, but there is in Kansas, and it doesn't obscure the outside vision, and it doesn't force people to just be dealing with it. It has to be dealing with day-to-day business at the same time as dealing with innovation. The second thing is keeping the business running is our best help for innovation, since it gets us in the game, and we can get to know some stuff that other people doesn't know. We can get to know better our customers, to have access to some insight that can help us build the next big thing. One other thing that I want to mention, and this is also something that I saw a lot in a startup ecosystem. It exists so much that it's become a cliche. Like, people always ask, okay, what is your why? Why are you working on that? Why your customer is gonna pay you for your product? Why is you are building this product? So this is something that is so much exists, as I mentioned, in the startup ecosystem, that become a cliche. But to understand the importance of knowing a why give us a way of measuring, is this failure a real failure, or is it something that might be turned to an opportunity in the future? So to understand this, so basically the question here is this failure a real failure, or something that might help us in the future? To understand that, we have to understand what is failure. Failure is something that is hard to define, since if you ask a question of 1,000 people, I'm pretty much sure you're going to get 1,000 answer. Everybody knows what's failure it is, but they know it in a limited spectrum regarding to what they are working on. But there is this concept that if anything that gets you close to your destination cannot be a failure. So you have to first define your destination so you don't achieve failure, which is basically just perfectly executing a flawed plan. And at the same time, you have to define it using the concept of why, to have more a heading than a destination. And I mentioned destination, but the idea is to have more a heading than destination. This is going to give you a broad spectrum of possibilities. You can run experiments again and see what is working. Having just a simple destination will limit the experience, limit your sandbox, and you and your team cannot be able to come out with some great innovations. The next one is what is called Billionaires or anti-fragility. This is a term that I quote from Nicholas Taleb, which is the author of the book Anti-Fragility. It is something that is really worth mentioning. Resiliency is being not hurt and not advantaged by something. Anti-fragility in what's happen when bad stuff doesn't hurt you, or they make you stronger. So the idea of building resiliency to failure, it's based on the concept that you should always look for small failures, which basically called either mistakes or problems, and mention them in a way that are noticed by the rest of the group, so they can take note of them, and they can use them to be able to resist to the big one. And also the fact of you should always experiment small. So experiment small not only give you the added benefit of not of running the experience fast and with not a lot of resources, but also build this resiliency also, since experiment is small, you can always declare something as a failure and move to the next thing. This the last item I'll talk about in this list is what is called the unfair advantage. This is a byproduct of failure. When we mentioned failure earlier, we said this is a great booster for innovation, but we mentioned it in a way that impedes success. But starting from a point of uncertainty doesn't mean that you are just going to be facing bad surprises. You might be also facing a lot of surprises. A simple example, if you flipped a coin and you get 50-50, you have an unfair advantage there, which is the law of average, and you know that the coin is not cheated, stuff that you might ever notice. But if you want to go and look to, okay, what the coin made of, what face was facing up, and the weather and everything, yes, you might get a closer result, but it's going to require a lot of investment. But just look into some stuff that was built into the experience that you notice, that can help you. This simple solution of just accounting for unfair advantages might not be the solution to fix all, but it is something that it should worth noticing. In the example we mentioned of the coin, this is something that will go just what people call luck or stuff like a chance or something like that, but it is something that's baked into the experience. As we mentioned earlier, where you are working, that give you access to a lot of resources that you can build to use to build the next thing. So try to use them to your advantage. As a conclusion, I want to mention that psychological safety comes as a response to a situation where game-changing ideas were lost to the void. People were not speaking their mind, because speaking their mind was easier than speaking their mind. This is, as we saw, is aligned with our evolutionary process and aligned with the habit forming science. Any behavior that is easy and rewarded is going to be repeated. Any behavior that is hard and punished is going to be avoided. So to answer the question we start the presentation with, yes, the safe to fail should be an integral part of psychological safety. It removes the punishment aspect of the behavior forming loop here. But it doesn't seem to be enough. The idea is, as much we remove the punishment from not speaking, we should add a bit of punishment. We should add as much as we remove the punishment for speaking, we should add a bit of punishment to not speaking. And by that, don't get me wrong, I'm just calling to, okay, in the past we punish people for speaking, now we're going to punish them for not speaking. Because first of all, the research was clear, it's not gonna work. And second, we don't have to. The punishment is all around us. If you look to what's going on in like big companies like Blockbuster, Kodak, companies that were like giant, and now they are just a cautionary tale of how to handle innovation. Like they are used to talk like this, they are used to give example. So just we need to work with our teammates, our leaders, to achieve this form of paradigm shift in which we know that innovation is the only solution. We know that the whirlwind is here, that daily work is here. We have to deal with it, but we have to see it as an enabler of innovation, not something that is against it. We know that as long as we are moving to the right direction, we're making progress. This is stuff that has to be put forward again and again. And other ideas that I discussed in this talk